Did your father serve in, like, Iwo?
He arrived in North Africa after the main campaign had ended, and his job was just driving trucks around, picking up supplies, delivering supplies. And from the stories I got from him after, you know, I was growing up, a lot of his North African service was being promoted up to corporal and then being busted down to private, and he spent a lot of time, they call it a punishment detail, where you would dig a trench, I think it was 3 feet wide, 10 feet long, 6 feet deep, and then you'd fill it back up again. And you just get to do that all day long. He had a problem with authority. When he went to Guam, it was pretty much just driving a truck around the island, helping the construction battalions, building these airstrips, and then just training for the invasion of Japan, which would have been, if actually events had forced the invasion of the home islands, would have been a bloodbath unparalleled in human history.
Wow.
It would have made all of World War II up to that point look like an opening act. I'm convinced in my own mind that I wouldn't be here, because he probably would have died 4 years before I was conceived on the beaches of Kyushu. I can't imagine putting myself into the mindset of those young men on Saipan that spring of 1945. Because when they talk about 80% casualties, well, you'd be in a group of 10, and you look around yourself and you'd think, well, only 2 out of this 10 is going to still be walking around in a few months. And he said it was really like being on death row. You could hear the clock ticking in the back of your mind. Yes, sir.
Did your dad ever go into Tokyo?
Yes, he was part of the occupation forces. In October of 1945, he returned to the United States in, I think it was March of 1946, and he definitely visited Tokyo. He described it as a scene of unbelievable devastation. He'd been across North Africa and thought that he'd seen real war up close and personal. So there's no way to describe it, basically. You could stand in downtown Tokyo and do a 360, and there was not one intact building. It was just mounds of rubble, sometimes 2 or 3 stories high, and some of the streets had been cleared, but just everything was blown apart, burnt to the ground. I believe that some of those photos of downtown Tokyo, yes indeed, yeah, are right here. He'd usually find somebody to make friends with among the locals, if for no other reason to buy souvenirs, which was a huge thing in World War II. American soldiers loved their souvenirs. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for your patience and for listening to this old guide today. This has been a very rewarding experience for me. And if anyone has any questions or think of something, you know, during the course of the day, I'll be back at 2:45. Thank you all.